Hey, thanks for stopping by. This week I am talking to Lin Reynolds, author of Unicorn Untamed and Professional Unicorn. So check it out.
I've had to really make a concerted effort this last year to be more intentional with my time on social media, because when you make your living on social media and then the charity and book bonanza and me, dabbling in writing my own book, it's like you just live on it 24/7.
Yeah.
And you get stuck in the mindless scrolling, and then also that the whole comparison trap thing. Even if you are a very confident person, you can't help but, like, if you're scrolling a certain hashtag yoga poses or something like that, you can't help but subconsciously sit there and look and compare yourself to what you're not.
Right.
And so I've really, really tried to be a lot more intentional with the time that I do spend on social media. And I miss a lot. I miss a lot of tags and comments and stuff like that, because if you don't see it right when you're on there, you get so many other notifications. So yeah, it's definitely a blessing and a curse, that's for sure.
It is. Well, and it's funny you say that, because one of the things you said in your book was we have a constant comparison because of everyone's social media highlight. And that's, a friend of mine had said that years ago, because I was like, I was feeling really bad about myself. And she's like, well, you're seeing the highlight reel. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's true. I feel like as women, if you post like, I had a bad day, my kid did this, my husband did that, a friend did this, or I had an accident or something, then it's, you have people going off to the side going, oh my gosh, why is she putting that online? But then if you're, oh my gosh, little Bobby did this and I'm so proud. And then it's like, oh my gosh, all she posts is her kids. And
you can't win.
No, yeah. So is there a happy medium?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because this morning, I'm like, it's July 1st, we're halfway over with this crappy year. I need to, we're all, for the most part, people are home a lot more. And so I really feel like I don't have an excuse to not take care of my health and my physical body. I have a degenerative disease that will never get better. It'll only get worse. And so this morning I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing yoga every day again. And I started, and it's like the least I've ever been able to do. I couldn't even get into child's pose. My shoulder is so frozen. And so I did a post about that. I pride myself in sharing the bad. I don't want it to just be a highlight reel, but it really is a balancing act, because you don't want to be like the negative Nancy that people are like, oh, here's this again. And so I try to do no more than 5% of events, or I'm having a bad day or whatever, and then the rest of the time, because I'm generally a positive person, and I do believe that I have my background's in occupational therapy, and I worked with a lot of stroke patients, and I know that we can retrain our brain. I know we can. And so I've worked really hard on, I journal in the morning, my gratitude, I journal at night. And that's kind of how the whole book idea started, was with me getting all my thoughts out on paper. And I'm not saying it can fix everything or everybody, but I just feel like it can make you a generally more grateful person by intentionally practicing, gratitude. And I try to convey that on social media.
I know that, because I think we're about the same age, and in the very first part of your book, you said, I've learned in my 40s, I'm done taking shit from people. And that's why I was dreading 40, and then 40 happened, and I swear I don't give a fuck turned on. And it was such I was like, oh my God, this is great. And it's not a facade. It's genuinely, I think it's just, you're done with that, not that you care at all, but there's just something freeing about it. So, was it, reading that, and I was like, damn, she put it out there. That's, was it hard for you to be so open for your book?
It was. I think the hardest part for me was, my mom's going to see this and know that I put this out there, or my husband's going to know that I put this out there, because I'm pretty open person with my own stuff. I don't, I'm not open about other people's stuff, that's their business, but I'm a pretty open person. And I've just been I don't know what the word is, like a habitual people pleaser my whole life. And I think you get to a point where you realize no matter what you do, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. You're going to piss somebody off. Someone's not going to be happy with you. Someone's going to think you should have done better. And it is, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was like my 40th birthday that happened. I'd say probably closer to like the end of my 40th year, turning 41. You just realize like life is so short, and that may be like you're kind of hitting the midlife, we're kind of midlife, right. And you realize like I shouldn't be living for other people.
Right.
Draining friendship is to get out of the friendship and create distance. Right. And so I think realizing that was pivotal for me, because I had, and I still do have a lot of friends. I love people,
right.
But I just realized, it's not about quantity, it's about quality.
Right.
And it's okay to kind of narrow in your circle a little bit.
Right. Well, and that's what I've told the girls. I'm like, if when you're with a group and you leave, or even a person, and you leave that situation and you feel worse about yourself, like I feel like when you're with your friends, you should leave and go, that was really nice. Like, I can't wait to see them again. That was fun.
Yeah.
If you're constantly going, oh my gosh, they said this about me, they said that, because I'm a person that it's really hard for me to stand up for myself. So,
yeah.
And when I told them, I said, if you are leaving and you're feeling worse about yourself, that's not the friend situation to be in,
Right.
It's just not,
yeah.
It's not healthy.
One of the things I talked about also was the drama triangle by Dr. Cartman. And he gave me permission to talk about that in the book, which I thought was really cool. Basically, you have the victim, the rescuer, and the perpetrator. And so if you're the rescuer and you're constantly, trying to take care of everybody else, a lot of times the only way you can remove yourself from the role of the rescuer is to become the perpetrator. And so when you're the rescuer, you have a friend that's the victim and you're the rescuer, the victim is probably complaining about the perpetrator or the person that did them wrong.
Right.
But then as time goes on, you realize that that relationship is draining. I want to get out of it. The only way I can get out of that relationship is to become the perpetrator. So now this victim will go find someone else to kind of gripe about you and how you did them wrong. And so I think once people accept that and know that that's the best way to free themselves of this draining relationship, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's on your diversity and inclusion chapter. Mm-hmm. And I know that when the Black Lives Matter protests really picked up, after George Floyd, you had posted that excerpt about white privilege. Mm-hmm. And I know that's such a touchy term to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I've had conversation with family and friends, and, this is where social media is good because, sometimes we don't like to be talked at, mm-hmm. or we're not ready to receive the message,
Right.
And it isn't until there's a meme or something that really catches it for you. So, I like that the way it's been explained to where people are less anxious or offended or whatever by it. But why do you think it is that so many people have a problem acknowledging that there is such thing as white privilege?
I think, and in my experience that I talk about in the book, is that we don't understand what it actually is. Mm-hmm. For me, when Murphy, my youngest sister, is the first person that ever told me I had white privilege. And I'm like, do you have any idea how poor we were growing up? Like, we could look over our bathtub and see the ground. We had scorpions, spiders, snakes, all these bugs in our house. We couldn't get fire insurance because the house was so old. We stood in line for cheese and milk. Mm-hmm. So in my head, I'm like, where's the privilege in that? Right. There's no privilege in that. And so I was in denial for a really long time. And then, I've dated people of every race. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm not racist. Right. I had a black boyfriend, or I had this, or I had that. But I never actually researched what white privilege was. And I remember finally getting the courage to ask one of my friends if we could have a conversation about it. And I was kind of doing research for the book. I knew way before I wrote the book, okay, yes, I do have white privilege. But it's one of those things, it's like you just don't want to reach out and ask someone to help you
Right.
understand. And fortunately, we have Google and YouTube and all those things.
Right.
And, you know, I told her, I said, you know, I realize now, 20 years later, that when I was in a relationship with a Black person, I always made sure that I told people, but he's like the Eagle Scout master, and he's like this, because we grew up in a town that had preconceived notions. We didn't really have people of color in our town. You know, it's a very small town, and what we knew was what we learned on TV.
Right.
And so I felt like I had to put a disclaimer, like, he's this type of Black person.
Right.
And now blows my mind that I ever did that, because now I realized how racist that was.
Right.
And, you know, the video, I think I linked the video in the book. That was, to me, one of the best explanations for privilege. It's not just white privilege. It's we all, if we're living in this country, we all have some form of privilege.
Mm-hmm.
But until people understand what it means to have white privilege, that you never had to worry when you got pulled over,
Right.
that someone was going to just make assumptions about you. You know, no one ever makes comments to us if two people are walking down the street holding hands or whatever. There's so many things that, because we've never had to worry about it, that's the definition of white privilege. And so I think people get defensive. I was one of those people. I got defensive when my little sister told me I had it. And until we're willing to educate ourselves about exactly what it is and kind of put yourself in the other person's shoes,
right,
you're not gonna, you know,
right.
you're not gonna understand it or be willing to admit that you have it.
Right. Well, and that's, I think, you know, I read someone had said, but I get nervous. I was a white person. I get nervous when I get pulled over by a cop, and I'm like, well, yeah, don't we all? I mean, if I see a cop and I know I'm going fast, my legs just suddenly get heavier, but it's a different, we watched one of the first shows we binge watched during all this craziness was All American. And I don't know if you've seen that on CW, but there was one episode where the athlete was living in another town and was staying with it was like his dad's former teammate or something like that, and he was married to a white woman, and they had 2 interracial children, and you had this Black athlete from the poor area who was staying with them so he could go to this elite high school or whatever. But they were back in his hometown and they get pulled over, and the biracial son is driving this nice car. It's his car, and the Black athlete is next to him, and he immediately just puts his hands up on the dashboard, and the driver is going, but this is my car, why are you doing this? And he's telling him, shut up, just put your hands on the wheel, just put your hands. Officer, we don't have anything, we're going to comply. And it was like, watching that, I'm like, that's a conversation that Black parents have to have with their children.
Yes.
It's not one that I'm ever going to have with my kids. I mean, I teach them to be respectful, and,
Right.
You don't do anything, don't make any sudden movements, but that's the chances of them reacting to my daughters making a sudden movement is much different than a Black,
Exactly.
person.
Yeah, and that's really like a somber realization, is knowing that there are different conversations that are having to be had. It's going to make me tear up. That none of us will ever understand. None of us have to have with our kids, our nephews, or
Yeah.
That's white privilege. The fact that we don't have to have that conversation with these children.
I hope people realize that it's not, they're taking a stand. It's a peaceful protest. It's a peaceful thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's hard. People take that offensively.
If you think about it, like the civil rights movement wasn't that long ago.
I know.
Different had to sit in the back of the bus, had to go to different schools, use different drinking fountains, sit in different parts of the restaurant. That wasn't that long ago, but in order for that to change, people had to start taking a stand and making everyone else uncomfortable. And so I think that we have to go through a level of discomfort to really see change and progress. If it was comfortable, then everybody would say, well, it's fine how it is.
Right.
Like it needed to be uncomfortable so that it creates, awareness.
Right. I'm going to ask you about Book Bonanza.
Yes.
So, I mean, with 2020 being postponed till next year, which, you know, I mean, everything's postponed till next year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are y'all just kind of taking the template from this year and just going that next year, or are y'all like making it better? And
I mean, pretty much. It's like, you know, you're almost hesitant to get too involved in the next year as well, because like we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We don't know where we're going to be a year from now, and Book Bonanza is less than a year from now. 21 is less than a year from now because we're doing it in June. But pretty much, we just, you know, we had already signed for 21, and so we basically just exchanged 20 for 22. So now we're on for 2 more years, and we're so excited. And I feel like it's, you know, it's a love fest to begin with, but I feel like this one's just going to be so special.
Yeah. Because
we're all going to look back on 20 and remember why we didn't have it.
Right.
So I'm really excited about it.
I love it. I mean, I'm so honored to be a part of it because it's such a fun event, and I was glad I got to bring the girls last year because they got to see it, and they, you know, they volunteered and they had a blast. I mean, that was such a neat experience for them.
Right. Well, we couldn't do it without authors like you, so we appreciate you, you know, coming back and doing that with us. But I think, you know, this would have been our 3rd year, so next year will be our 3rd year. And we all have family and friends that hear us talk about it, and we'll post a few pictures about it. But until you're actually there, it's hard to imagine that level of happiness and joy and people coming together and exhaustion. Like, it's so exhausting, and that hotel is so big, and there's so much walking around, but somehow we have so much adrenaline, you know, from the whole purpose of the event. You know, the whole purpose of the event is to raise money for charity, and so everyone's coming together for a good cause, and it really is such a good feeling, and it's so surreal every time we do it. We're like, wow, this is great, like, this is amazing. We could not do it without, you know, the organizers and the people that, like Susan and Stephanie.
Oh my gosh, I know y'all's. I would say y'all's volunteers, your organizers, they're amazing. I mean, just
we have 150 volunteers. That, you know, now we have a volunteer coordinator that basically trains the volunteers throughout the year and coordinates with them, and so there's definitely a lot of moving parts that we didn't imagine when we first envisioned it back in 2016.
Anyway, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was fun. I can't wait to see you.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this interview with Lin Reynolds, and be sure to check out her book, Unicorn Untamed, available on Amazon. And stop in next week where I'll be talking to Kelsey Mayer. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.